Pete, you keep talking about predictions. Explain prediction.
So prediction's the idea that you know something that's going to happen that's not yet happened. So for example, if I were to seal an envelope and send it to a press company, and then a month later they printed the newspaper and it said on it, open on this specific day, and then they open the envelope and inside it there is a picture of what's on the headline, that'd be a prediction. Anything that's sort of a prediction of future events or things that are to come is classed as a prediction. But some of this stuff that you're learning in this set, if you wanted it to seem more psychic as opposed to psychological, or you wanted it to seem like you've seen into the future, well, you can use it as a prediction instead of reading somebody. So for example, we talked about the life equation, which is the thing with the phone where they're adding random numbers in from their life.
4038.
That's it. Because you know that's going to happen in advance, it enables you to be able to put down in an envelope, today I will meet
prediction.
somebody that, you know, if you know you're performing for a man or a woman, or, you know, whoever it is you feel you're going to perform for, you can put in one envelope, today I will meet a woman, she will be, and then a little bit of a reading, and when we talk about the readings, you'll fill some of the stuff in the readings into there. Just simple stuff, you know, like outgoing, very fun lady that's very independent. And if I have met this woman, I believe her lucky number will be the number 4038. And you can have that in an envelope, and before you ever begin, you can say, do you know, it's really interesting that I believe that fate all brings us together in ways that we can't comprehend logically. And I just have this feeling that I have some sort of connection with you that I can't explain, but something's telling me, I wrote something down earlier that this is for you. And you take it out and you give it to the person, and they're holding on to it. Now they add these numbers up.
Imagine
And
if
you
it's in their hands
That's
already,
it, yeah.
and then you're not touching it. That's great.
And you just smile and just sort of go, "Ooh." And the reason that I wanted to mention this is because it requires no extra thought. It's not like you're learning a new technique or having to practice something. You're just practicing the dress that you're putting around it, deciding whether you want it to seem like you've predicted it in advance or you're doing it there and then. There's two kinds of prediction. You can decide whether you want to meet the person and then write the prediction, or with a 4038, then write it down before you ever begin. Because the way we presented it is, I'm looking at them, look at me, think of this number, boom, this is it, this is this. That's reading somebody there and then in the moment. Whereas if you meet somebody and you say, you know what, I don't know why I'm feeling this, I'm going to write this 4038 down first. That's a prediction then.
Yeah.
But it's a personalized prediction. The one that we were talking about a moment ago with the envelope where it says, I will meet somebody. That's personal, but it's not the same kind of person. It's not like you've looked at them, read them, and then made the prediction.
Right.
So you know, it's not too much to overthink, but sometimes there's a difference in the way predictions are presented. Like the DSP, the double-sided principle, I was talking about sending. That's it, yeah. Talking about sending a letter out a week earlier. You can do that. You know, you can send it a week earlier, or you can sit there in person and say, okay, this is what I feel is going to happen here. And so all you're doing is predicting future events. And that can seem really powerful, because when you get your head around the fact that some of the greatest psychics in the world, for example, Uri Geller's doing this still now. And he'll say a load of things in interviews, and then when something sticks, he'll point out that relevant interview online. You know?
Yeah.
And the best way to sort of look at it is, you know, you can sort of hide things on social media that you don't want people to see, private posts to yourself.
Yeah.
Well, imagine there's like 12 people in a Royal Rumble in a wrestling match. This is just the most ridiculous example I can think of. And you made 12 posts on one day, and you got a few of your friends to like those posts, you know, and then you hid them all. And then 2 weeks later, you just made the one publicly visible. And you said, you know, 2 weeks ago, look back over my wall and look what I predicted the outcome of the Royal Rumble would be. That'd be something that would look like, wow, this is impossible. And in that context, it's fun and interesting. But imagine, for example, then doing this with things like politics, predicting the outcome of a presidential campaign, you know. And if you really wanted to take your time there, and there were like a point system that went up to 15, and let's say that, you know, we went back to the US presidential campaign between Hillary and Donald Trump, and let's say that there were a point system, and it were capped at 15, just as an example. You could make 15 posts for, say, Hillary Clinton and 15 posts for Donald Trump, and then put, you know, that they will win by exactly this number, and then just make the one relevant. And when people look at that, they go, God, this is that guy who showed me this in this bar, and all of a sudden now he's somehow managed to know the exact number of points that so-and-so were going to win by. And that's the sort of stuff that's what's getting people on TV. That's what's getting people believed by millions of people. And it's stuff like that, putting it in the envelope and knowing it in advance, that takes this from being a trick and takes it from being a technique to being something that's more real. And that all comes down to you guys, because they have to decide what path they want to take. And that's something that I can't really teach them. It's all about them. Do they want to be more seen as psychic, or do they want to be seen more as psychological? Do they just want this to just be a little bit of fun, where they're just reading people? Do they want to use this to be able to convince people they're learning NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming? You know, and that's why I think it's relevant to mention the predictions, because I know we talked about them quite a bit, but I just wanted to put a definition as to what a prediction is. And I think whilst we're at it, it'd be really great just for them, and it's a section that you don't have to feel like you have to watch, because it might be overwhelming at first, just to talk about a few terms that are used in mentalism, because they might want to get into this more, and it'll just give them something to be able to look up online if they really wanted to look at and read a little bit more about. So prediction's obviously one term.
Yeah.
It just means to predict future things. Future things. Swami or nail writer, that's in your box. You know, it's a little thing that just fits on your thumb and it writes. And the reason they're called nail writers is because they used to fit over the nail instead of on the pad of the thumb. And again, you know, if you're wanting to look up nail writers or nail writing, or look back at the history of it, you now know what it's called. Looking at things like the DSP, the double-sided principle, well, it's just is what it is. Double-sided, and it's a principle in mentalism. There's nothing too much about it. One that you've mentioned and we've talked about is the one ahead. It's just simply what it sounds like. You're one ahead of everybody else. You know, we were talking about the reading somebody. Well, reading's a lot like you imagine it, a book. You're just reading somebody, you know. Something that's hidden in plain sight is exactly how it sounds like. You know, the UV we talked about, where it's hidden right on your head and nobody sees it. It's hidden in plain sight, and that affords you to be able to be a little bit chancy and a little bit more bold. And I know that I'm sort of mentioning these terms and they might seem like something that's not relevant, but by knowing what it is that you're doing and knowing the things that are inside of you, you know, the add a number, it's just simply what it sounds like. Add a number.
Yeah.
But it's the genuine definition of what the pros around the world are calling these things. And it's how they talk to each other. It's the little secret language that they're talking. So when they're stood there and they're saying, oh, what's your favourite billet peak? Well, we know what a billet is. It's the little billets in the box, and a peak's to peak at something. You know, and they're there, oh, what's your favourite billet peak? You know the language that these pros are speaking. You're speaking the same language as them. It's almost, for me, like a little private club. Imagine a small group of people worldwide make up a language that nobody else can speak. And they're all talking to each other very openly in a bar. And they're saying things like, oh, how did the DSP principle work out for you yesterday? You know, how did that work out? Did you get round to using the life equation? Yeah, oh, they had a number routine were great. Everybody could listen to that, and you're not revealing anything, but you're speaking this little secret language that they're speaking, and that's why I thought it'd be relevant just to be part of that little group to understand the glossary or the terms.
Great.
You know, so I just thought it'd be something I'd just like to chat about, and you know.
Excellent. It's all valuable.